The next theory we're going to look at in terms of motivation is that of Frederick Herzberg. So Frederick Herzberg is a US psychologist, and his book from 1959 looks at the factors that motivate workers and identifies that there are certain things that motivate workers and get them to perform more and better. And then there are other factors that demotivate people. So you can think of them as kind of a minimum. They have to be present. If there's issues with those, then people become demotivated, disengaged, actively disengaged. But you don't necessarily have to improve them to motivate people and get more out of them. They're just kind of that minimum requirement. And it's this list of motivators that will then get more and more out of your workers. So let's take a look at the two-factor theory. So motivators, things that make people more satisfied with their job. They perform well, they're being recognized for their achievements, they have more responsibility. Maybe they feel that the job is a calling, and so the work itself is motivating. They feel like they help people, they make a difference. There's opportunities for promotion or advancement. There's opportunities for growth in terms of professional development, new skills, new opportunities to try things. So these all increase the job satisfaction when you add more of it. Then there's what Herzberg calls the hygiene factors, the dissatisfiers. That is, if they're absent, then employees will not be happy, they will not be motivated, okay? But that they aren't necessarily the things that you need to have more of in order to increase the performance of the workforce. So that is, there needs to be a physical workspace, there needs to be clear policies and rules, we need a sense of security, we need to have an adequate salary, there needs to be a relationship with your supervisors and with your peers. Okay, so we have this minimum baseline that if not, we will be dissatisfied with our job, we'll be more likely to not show up, to leave the job itself, or to be actively disengaged. But in terms of the job itself, to get more out of workers, we should focus instead on the motivators list. Well, this idea of this two-factor theory is often what is used to design jobs today. So when we look at job designs, we think about, in terms of the job description, what is expected of people? What does that job itself look like? How do we combine the tasks to form something we hire a person for? So recognizing the motivators are reasons that people are likely to take a job. So that means we need to create a job, design it, so it has skill variety. Okay, so the idea is that it uses different aspects of your skills. It uses the different skills that you have. This will allow you to feel like you are a good performer and engage people. The job is less boring because it's not just one skill. Your job isn't just to turn the screw every day. Instead, it's going to access different parts of you and your abilities. We also design jobs so that they have task identity. So there's completion of a whole identifiable piece of work. So even if your job does not involve you in the whole project, we want the employee to see their role, their impact in terms of that bigger picture. So the idea here is that if your job is to turn the screw, you may not make, if we're making, let's say, a car, you may not make the entire car, but you have an opportunity somewhere in your job role to see the finished product and see how what you do contributes to that greater piece. So this is going to help with your feeling of achievement and the work itself in terms of you are having an impact. And related to that is task significance. So not only are you part of the creation of something, the providing of a good, or providing of a service, the making of a good, but also that your role impacts other people. So there is task significance. What you do helps other people working in the same organization. So there's that recognition of your contribution, not just to the work, but to the people. So other people are effective in their job because of what you do. We need the job design to have autonomy, so we like to have more control over how the process is done. Unlike when we look at scientific management and we look at Taylor, the idea was we separated out the planning from the doing to separate, and we would then, as management, decide what is the best way to do something and just tell the worker how to do it. What we're now finding as we add psychology in here is that people are motivated when they get to determine for themselves the best way for doing things. So they've taken responsibility that what they decide and how they do something impacts others and impacts the final product. And then we need feedback. So we need our activities to result in direct and clear information as to how well we performed. So can we be recognized for our work? Are we able to achieve and move up within the organization if we perform well? And it comes back to that idea from Mayo in terms of that relationship with management. So we're looking at, as we design a job, if you're posting a job advertisement, does it hit those motivators that we get from Herzberg? And we recognize that when we look at a job posting, sure, you check salary. What's the minimum I'm going to be paid? We check, location in terms of where am I working? What do those working conditions look like? Is there job security? Is this a posting for a 6-month gig, or is this a permanent position? Those tell you whether or not you stick to the job posting and even consider applying. But in terms of accepting the job, in terms of satisfaction with the job, we're coming back to those motivators. And so if you're the one in charge of building those job descriptions, you want to hit those motivators. And people are going to be looking for skill variety. They get to do different things, task identity, task significance, the level of autonomy. And then they also want to know that they're not going to be in isolation, that they're going to be able to know that they are performing well and have opportunities to grow and try out those new things as they grow. So if we're looking at job design, we'll just continue with that discussion here. When we look at job design, we're looking at job characteristic model. So Hackman and Oldham created what is called the job characteristic model. And I'm just going to go forward a bit here. So Hackman and Oldham are organizational psychologists. They studied 658 workers and 62 jobs across 7 different organizations back in 1975. And so they're looking at, as they're expanding on Herzberg's work, in terms of what does that job design look like? What are the job characteristics? And so we are aligning that job characteristics that align with our motivators, so skill variety, task identity, task significance, autonomy, and feedback. Those tie to psychological needs. We need meaningfulness in our work. We need responsibility for the outcomes of the job, and we need to have knowledge that the actual results impact, that there are actual results from the things we do. There's a purpose to what we're doing. We're adding value. And so it's about aligning the fact that there are these psychological needs that we have with the outcomes from the job. So we want to have people who are motivated. We want high quality performance. We want high satisfaction. We want low absenteeism and turnover. So we can connect these pieces to understand the psychological drives, determines people's motivations, determines the performance and outcomes of the organizations. We'll add just 2 more things here from Hackman and Oldham, and that is, when you are looking at that job design, you need to consider job rotation, and job enrichment. So job rotation. If your job every day is to turn the screw, there's not a lot of skill variety. We're not tapping into my wealth of knowledge and all the things I'm able to do. So there are ways to enhance a job by job rotation. So think about when you have someone on maternity leave, for example, and you need to fill in. Could you instead have people do parts of that job so they get a chance to break up the work and to practice some of their other skills? If we have someone who's quit and so we have an empty position, can we fill that position temporarily with other people who want to test out a different role? So that breaks up the monotony and gives us a chance to test out those skills that we have, and perhaps then grow that interest and maybe find that we got bored with the old job, but there are opportunities to add value to the organization through other ways. We can also look at job enrichment. So here we're providing opportunities for our workers by coaching or mentoring other workers, by having them be involved in team projects, by having them be involved in councils that might make decisions about management, about operations, about union activities, ways to engage them further as we go back in terms of giving them more skill variety and more task significance, okay, giving them more autonomy and giving them opportunities for growth. Try out new things, create opportunities for advancement. So if you are in charge of designing a job, coming up with a position that you're going to hire for, start to think about these things in terms of what motivates workers and how is that tied into the design of the job itself.